You know, when you drop a glass on the kitchen floor, the loudest part is that initial, like, explosive shatter. But the most dangerous part really isn't that first crash.
No, it rarely is. The real hazard lies in the invisible splinters.
Right.
Those tiny microscopic fragments that just scatter halfway across the room, hiding in the grout lines and, under the cabinet.
Exactly, the ones you don't even see until, like, 3 weeks later when you find them with your bare foot.
Ouch. Yeah.
It's this delayed, hidden kind of damage that requires an incredibly careful, deliberate cleanup.
Yeah.
Which honestly perfectly describes what we are diving into today. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one.
So our mission for this exploration is untangling the incredibly messy, complicated web of relationship betrayals and, their long-term aftermath. We've got a massive stack of sources for you today.
We really do. We're looking at evolutionary psychology research, clinical therapy, insights on childhood trauma, behavioral studies on infidelity, and even essays on the social fallout of breakups.
Right. It's a comprehensive look at human behavior at its absolute most vulnerable, and honestly, quite frequently, its most destructive.
Yeah, definitely.
We are going to figure out exactly why people cheat, the hidden thought processes behind those betrayals, why it is so overwhelmingly detrimental to remain friends with an ex, and why you really must draw a hard line with friends who try to play neutral with your ex.
It's a lot to cover.
It is. But to understand the chaotic aftermath of a breakup, we have to start with the betrayal that so often causes it. Because infidelity isn't just this spontaneous mistake, right? There is an entire architecture behind it.
Yeah, and to map out that architecture, our sources suggest we have to go way back. Before we even touch modern clinical psychology, we have to look at evolutionary biology.
Oh, wow. Okay, going way back.
Yeah, according to research by evolutionary psychologists like Alastair P.C. Davies, the initial biological drive to stray and our gut-wrenching reaction to being cheated on, they're deeply hardwired into us.
Yeah, it's survival mechanisms.
Exactly, ancient survival mechanisms. Fundamentally, it comes down to reproductive success.
So it isn't just some modern moral failing. There's a primal blueprint operating in the background.
Right, but that biological panic is totally asymmetrical between men and women. The math of survival looked completely different.
How so?
Well, historically, for a man, the ultimate evolutionary threat was cuckoldry. That's the biological danger of unwittingly investing his, finite resources and protection into raising another man's genetic offspring.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so because of this pressure, men evolved a psychology that triggers extreme distress, specifically over sexual infidelity. It even sparks a subconscious drive for a mechanism researchers call sperm competition.
I remember reading about this in the source material, and I was completely floored. It's not just a theory, right? It alters actual behavior.
It really does. If a man suspects his partner might be straying, his biology essentially goes into hyperdrive. It prompts increased sexual interest to literally physically outcompete the potential rival's genetic material.
That is wild. But for women, the evolutionary threat was different because, a woman inherently knew the child was genetically hers.
Right. Her primary threat was the loss of resources and physical protection in a very dangerous world.
So women evolved to experience way more distress over emotional infidelity. That terrifying prospect that he's falling in love with someone else and preparing to divert his resources to a new family.
Exactly. That resource diversion was a literal death sentence in our evolutionary past, which is why emotional betrayal still feels so physically devastating to us today.
That makes so much sense.
And interestingly, the evolutionary research also points out why some men actively seek out affairs. They report a unique ego boost or psychological thrill from mate poaching.
Wait, mate poaching, like stealing someone else's partner?
Yeah, actively pursuing and stealing them. In evolutionary terms, it satisfies a high-risk instinct for intrasexual competition. Pulling a mate away from a rival proves that you are the dominant competitor.
Okay, but as fascinating as those ancient roots are, they don't give us the whole picture, right? We aren't just biological robots running ancient code.
No, of course not. When we shift from evolution to modern psychological reality, the behavioral data reveals a much more nuanced and frankly bizarre landscape.
Yeah, like that landmark behavioral study by Dylan Selterman. They looked at 495 people who openly admitted to cheating.
And the findings completely shatter the stereotypes we're constantly fed by TV and movies. Out of those nearly 500 admitted cheaters, Only about half actually engaged in vaginal intercourse.
Okay, that totally redefines the conversation for me. If only half of them are having sex, society's definition of cheating as a purely physical act is just totally inadequate.
Exactly. The other half are engaging in deep emotional affairs, intimate late-night phone calls, highly secretive digital micro-cheating, that kind of thing.
Right. And the study identified 8 primary psychological motivations for straying, right? Anger, lack of love, low commitment, esteem, the situation, and neglect.
Yeah. But the truly wild part is that the motivation entirely dictates the execution. The why determines the how.
Give me an example.
Okay, let's look at those who cheat out of a reported lack of love in their primary relationship. Conventional wisdom assumes that if you're having an affair, you're going to be hyper-secretive, hiding in the shadows.
Right, checking into sketchy motels to fake names.
Exactly. But the data shows this specific group is actually the most likely to go on very public dates with their affair partner.
Wait, really? Public dates?
Yes. Taking them to crowded local restaurants, movie theaters, engaging in public displays of affection. They aren't trying hard to hide. The affair is functioning as an intentional exit strategy.
Oh, wow. It's kind of like a coward intentionally leaving a trail of brightly colored breadcrumbs.
Yes, that is a brilliant way to frame it.
Because they want the relationship to blow up, because they want out,
Yeah.
but they just don't have the spine to sit down and initiate a mature breakup themselves. They are like outsourcing the breakup to the affair.
They are forcing their partner's hand. Now, contrast that with people who cheat out of anger or perceived neglect. This group operates completely differently. They're statistically the most likely to voluntarily confess their affair to their partner.
Which, on the surface, sounds almost noble. You think, oh, they couldn't live with the guilt, so they're coming clean.
Yeah, but clinical psychology suggests it is anything but noble. Coming clean in these specific cases is a form of retribution.
Oh, man.
They're using the confession as a weapon to punish their partner for the perceived neglect or anger in the relationship. It's a calculated strike designed to inflict maximum emotional pain.
That is incredibly dark to realize honesty can be weaponized like that. And it gets even deeper when you bring childhood trauma into the equation.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we have clinical insights from therapy resources that highlight how unresolved childhood wounds completely shape the betrayer's mind. For many, chronic cheating is actually a misguided trauma response.
We have to look at the internal scripts people develop as kids. If a child grows up in an unstable environment and develops the belief that, everyone I love will eventually leave me.
Right, that deep fear of abandonment.
Yeah, they might use infidelity as an adult to avoid emotional dependence. By constantly having one foot out the door with a secret side partner, they convince themselves they are protecting their nervous system.
Because they leave before they can be left.
Exactly. Or take the childhood belief that to share power is to be vulnerable. If someone grew up in an abusive home, cheating becomes a twisted way to maintain secret control.
Because you hold this major secret your partner doesn't know.
Yeah.
And that imbalance gives you a false, temporary sense of safety.
Precisely. Which aligns with what family therapist Becky Lennox calls microcheating. It rarely starts with a dramatic hotel rendezvous. It slides in through blurry boundaries.
Like secret DMs or inappropriate inside jokes with a coworker. Texts that just slightly cross the line.
Yeah, and the betrayer justifies it at every microstep, claiming they aren't actually doing anything wrong. They tell themselves they just want to feel chosen or special.
But that desire to feel chosen, especially stemming from childhood trauma, is like a bottomless pit. No single partner can fill it, so the boundaries keep getting pushed until the whole thing collapses.
And when it finally collapses, you are left with the wreckage.
Right, the relationship implodes. And that is exactly where society hands us this incredibly toxic cultural script. The expectation that you should just stay friends.
Oh,
We treat it like the ultimate badge of emotional maturity, right? Oh, we're so evolved, we're still best friends. But our sources argue fiercely against this, particularly when it comes to women trying to remain friends with a male ex.
The clinical consensus on this is absolute. Transitioning immediately into a friendship does not demonstrate maturity. It actively halts the healing process. It traps both people in the emotional waiting room.
The emotional waiting room. That concept makes so much sense when you think about it. When you leave a relationship, there's a massive void in your daily life.
A huge void.
And if you immediately try to be just friends, you're essentially using your ex for emotional comfort to fill that void, without doing any of the actual relationship work.
Right. You get the perks, someone to text when your boss yells at you, someone to validate your feelings, without the commitment. It prevents you from emotionally detaching.
It also triggers the hero syndrome, particularly in women who were socialized to be caretakers.
Oh, heavily. It's the deeply ingrained desire to stick around to save or fix the ex-partner. They see him struggling and think they can't abandon him.
But the hard boundary is that once the romantic relationship ends, you are no longer responsible for his emotional regulation.
Exactly. And if the relationship was toxic, staying friends is not just emotionally stunting, it is actively dangerous. We really have to look at Evan Stark's concept of coercive control here.
Yes, coercive control is such an important framework because society so often equates abuse purely with physical violence. But coercive control is about dominating a person's reality.
Right, it's the ex who dictated who you were allowed to text, or who got visibly, silently furious if you sat next to a male colleague at a dinner party. It's a methodical stripping away of autonomy.
And abusers who utilize coercive control rely heavily on DARVO.
Yes. Deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender.
If you are listening to this right now and you have ever found yourself apologizing in tears after you caught someone else lying to you, this is exactly the mechanism they use to flip the script.
They completely flip it. They deny the behavior, they attack your sanity, and suddenly you are the one on trial.
Right. And they push the victim to the absolute brink with gaslighting and emotional manipulation.
And when the victim finally snaps, when her nervous system simply cannot take it anymore and she yells or cries or slams a door, the abuser points a finger and says, "Look how crazy and unstable you are."
Well, that specific dynamic is called reactive abuse.
Right. Exactly. The abuser intentionally weaponizes the victim's natural biological reaction to being systematically abused. If a woman attempts to remain friends with that man, she is granting him continued access to distort her reality.
She cannot reclaim her own mind while voluntarily tethered to the person scrambling it.
No, she can't.
Okay, I hear the clinical danger there, but I have to push back on this for a second, just to play devil's advocate.
Sure, go for it.
I refuse to believe every single breakup is a psychological thriller filled with DARVO and coercive control. What if two people just mutually gently grow apart? No cheating, no abuse. In those amicable scenarios, isn't it a sign of emotional intelligence to shift straight into friendship?
It's a totally valid question, but the psychology of attachment tells us that even in the most profoundly amicable situations, an immediate transition to friendship is usually a dangerous illusion.
Really? Even then?
Yes. You cannot bypass the grief. You must enforce a strict, prolonged cooling-off period. True emotional detachment has to occur before any platonic relationship can survive.
Because if you attempt to be friends right out of the gate, one person is usually secretly harboring hope for reconciliation.
Exactly. And the other is just trying to ease their own guilt. It is a guaranteed recipe for deep, bitter resentment.
Which perfectly explains why the Marriage.com source outlines the 17 unspoken boundaries that are absolutely required if a friendship is ever going to work, like months or years down the line.
You really can't just wing it. The boundaries have to be incredibly rigid to protect both people.
What are some of the major ones?
Well, 0 physical intimacy of any kind. Not even lingering hugs or cuddling on the couch, which confuse the nervous system. You have to strictly avoid giving unsolicited love advice about their new partners.
Oh yeah, that sounds messy.
Very. You must physically throw out or return their old possessions, no social media stalking, and, crucially, you should strictly hang out in group settings.
Right, because hanging out one-on-one in a dimly lit coffee shop just invites those old romantic habits to surface. As the source beautifully puts it, closure means closing the chapter.
You literally cannot start reading a new book if you are stubbornly rereading the last page of the old one every single weekend.
That is so true. And this brings us to a crucial and often devastating secondary layer of a breakup, the collateral damage.
Yes, the social circle caught in the crossfire.
Right, if it's that dangerous for the couple themselves to remain friends, what happens to the friends who try to play Switzerland? The ones who say, well, I love you both, I just want good vibes, so I'm staying neutral?
Our sources are unequivocal on this. Neutrality in the face of betrayal is a myth.
A myth.
Yeah. Chelsea Brooke Cole, who specializes in toxic relationship dynamics, explains that when friends attempt to stay neutral after one partner was emotionally abused, it doesn't preserve the peace. It actively harms the victim.
Because neutrality is just a passive endorsement of the bad behavior. If your friend's boyfriend was controlling or unfaithful, and you continue grabbing drinks with him, you're silently validating his actions.
You are signaling to him, and far more damagingly to your friend, that what he did wasn't actually a deal breaker. It provides fertile ground for the abuser's smear campaign.
where the toxic ex paints the victim as the unstable one, while the friends just nod along and say, "We just don't want to get involved."
It is a profound, life-altering betrayal of friendship. Author Sarah K. Ramsey has some heartbreaking insights on this dynamic. She points out that losing a close friend to a toxic ex is a crushing double betrayal.
Because the manipulative people know exactly what they are doing.
Right.
They specifically target and exploit the exact traits we value most in good friends.
Yes. Their empathy, their loyalty, their willingness to forgive. A toxic ex will play the victim to the friend group, weaponizing your friend's natural kindness against you.
So when your friend extends that beautiful loyalty to the man who shattered your reality, it feels like an insurmountable injustice. It's like standing in front of your burning house, watching it turn to ash, and having your best friend shrug their shoulders while complimenting the arsonist on how warm the fire is.
That analogy perfectly captures the pain of the situation. You cannot maintain a friendly relationship with the arsonist and simultaneously look the victim in the eye and claim you support them.
The actions just fundamentally contradict the words. So how are we supposed to navigate this socially?
Well, the organization Power to Decide outlines some highly pragmatic rules of engagement. It largely comes down to origin and severity.
Origin meaning how they met.
Exactly. If your friend knew your ex well before you ever started dating, maintaining basic cordiality makes sense. But if they met the ex through you, if you brought this person into the inner circle, their loyalty should fundamentally remain with you.
Especially if the breakup involves a severe violation of trust. There's a story from the Autostraddle source that illustrates this perfectly. It's about a tight-knit friend group thrown into absolute crisis over a couple, Marilyn and Charlie.
Right, the camping trip debate.
Yes. After years of a slowly deteriorating, highly controlling dynamic where Charlie isolated Marilyn, he finally physically cheats on her. And the friend group just gets paralyzed. They start debating, well, Charlie never did anything bad to us. Do we really need to uninvite him to the group camping trip?
And the hard, uncomfortable truth the source drives home is that when a foundational boundary like fidelity or emotional safety is crossed, the friend group is obligated to take a stand.
They have to.
If women want to genuinely protect their friends, they cannot remain socially friendly with a man who has demonstrated a clear willingness to betray and manipulate a woman he claimed to love.
Because continuing to invite him to game nights tells the victim that her trauma is less important than the group's social convenience.
Precisely. It's about drawing a hard, unyielding line to protect the emotional peace of the person who is wrong.
So if you are listening to this right now and applying it to your own life, remember this. You do not owe anyone a friendship that diminishes your reality.
And you certainly don't owe your continued friendship to a partner who shattered your trust, nor to a friend who refuses to acknowledge the reality of that shattered trust.
Let's pull all these threads together, because we have covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have.
We started by unpacking the ancient evolutionary biology of why men and women fear fundamentally different types of infidelity. We moved into the modern psychological data, revealing that cheating is rarely just about physical sex.
Right. It's often an intentional, cowardly exit strategy or a calculated weapon of anger. And we examine the unresolved childhood traumas that drive people to microcheat just to feel chosen.
And we broke down exactly why the immediate aftermath of a breakup cannot simply be smoothed over with a fake, forced friendship. You can't just hang out in the emotional waiting room.
We detailed coercive control, the crazy-making reality of Darvo and reactive abuse, and the absolute necessity of those 17 strict boundaries if you're ever going to share space with an ex again.
And finally, we looked at the devastating collateral damage of friends who try to play Switzerland, and why true loyalty means refusing to comfort the arsonist.
It is an immense amount to process, but it forces us to deeply analyze the mechanics of our own relationships. Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today.
Lay it on us.
If our romantic betrayals are so deeply influenced by ancient evolutionary drives, and our exit strategies are so heavily dictated by unresolved childhood trauma, to what extent do we actually possess free will in our relationships?
Oh, wow.
When we break someone's heart, or when we are drawn to someone who breaks ours, are we making a conscious, independent choice? Or are we simply, unconsciously, reading from a script that was written long before we were even born?
Oh man, that is a heavy one. That is absolutely going to keep me up tonight reevaluating every relationship dynamic I've ever had.
It's definitely something to chew on.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, the invisible splinters of a breakup are incredibly real, and they're sharp. But with hard boundaries, a refusal to accept coercive control, and demanding true loyalty from your circle, you can sweep those splinters up before they cause permanent damage. Stay curious, protect your peace, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.